Brian Hastings, I'm Chief Creative Officer at Insomniac Games, and I'm also Creative Director on the Ratchet Deadlocked project. We're looking at Ratchet Deadlocked, and this is really a new direction for Ratchet. This is something new for us as a company.
So what makes Ratchet Deadlocked one of the best action games of all time? And how does its major focus on combat arena gameplay compare to the previous games in the series? In this retrospective video, we examine one of the last Ratchet & Clank games for the PlayStation 2, Ratchet Deadlocked. A game, while lacking the critical components of the previous games in the series, still served as a proper action title in the long run. In this video, we examine the history, development, and gameplay of Insomniac's fourth game in the Ratchet & Clank series. If you enjoy in-depth looks into your favorite games of the 6th console generation, make sure you subscribe to the channel.
The low-seeded Lombax, known as Ratchet, has surged to the top of the Dread Zone rankings.
Frankly, I can't believe the little furball made it this far, Juanita. He is a scrappy sucker, isn't he?
He certainly is, Dallas. He's also a threat to children, endangered species, and common decency.
Released in October of 2005, Ratchet Deadlocked, developed by Insomniac Games, deviated a lot from the other games in the series up to this point. Rather than having the focus be around saving the galaxy from an egotistical madman, the game's story instead centers around Ratchet staying alive long enough to escape a sinister and deadly reality show. So Deadlock is a game that I've always had mixed feelings about. As the fourth game in the popular video game series, Deadlock not only improved upon various aspects of gameplay in the series, but also worked in plenty of new customizable features. But sadly, this came at a cost of what made the series critically acclaimed. Each Ratchet & Clank game up to that point had always incorporated a good deal of action-oriented gameplay with aspects of platforming and exploration. But Deadlock departs from this formula and instead is solely centered around combat. It's not to say that Deadlock didn't impress people at the time. After all, this game did manage to sell around 2.1 million copies worldwide, along with scoring considerably good reviews. As a fan, I must express my frustration with this game's shortcomings. Sure, I loved it when it came out, but in hindsight, this was one of the weaker entries in the entire series. Make no mistake, Deadlock was conceived as a way for Insomniac to take advantage of the growing online gaming market of the mid-2000s. Like Up Your Arsenal, the game featured a pretty well-designed multiplayer mode, which featured Conquest, Deathmatch, Capture the Flag, and King of the Hill matches. But as impressive as it was, I think more work should have been done in designing the world and the story. The previous Ratchet & Clank games served as hybrid-style games, which combined action shooter, platforming, puzzle solving, and RPG elements all together. But Deadlock's entire focus seems to be simply in offering intense shooter action. For die-hard fans of the series like me, it was fairly disappointing to see the many changes which Insomniac made. Firstly, there was a serious lack of exploration or discovery that made the previous three games memorable. And for that matter, Insomniac even scaled down the free roaming aspects and the jumping back and forth between planets. Everything from the mission objectives to the side objectives and challenges are very much linear. And frankly, there is little reason to travel back to planets, as you don't have any later objectives that require you to travel back to the previously explored planet. Another shortcoming of the game is the absence of cool gadgets, which also served as fun minigames. In the instances where you have to hack doors or activate machinery, all of the work has been given to your two assistant bots. And with the absence of gadgets is the absence of your main partner in crime, Clank. Clank throughout 3 games has served as one of the most useful gadgets, as his backpack upgrades were essential for platforming aspects of the game, which for that matter were also scaled back significantly. Sure, you will still have those segments where you have to use your grind boots and slingshot, but these parts are very few, and that's surprising since those platforming parts of the previous Ratchet & Clank games were so well done and creative. Prior to conceiving this idea for battle arena focused gameplay, Insomniac had actually considered creating a Ratchet & Clank racing game which focused on demolition style combat, as seen in games like Twisted Metal. But this idea was scrapped when Insomniac found out that Naughty Dog was in the works of making the Jak X combat racing game. Finally, Insomniac instead began developing Ratchet & Clank Nexus, not to be confused with Into the Nexus, which would be released in 2013. In the early demo, the main premise had Ratchet and Clank on a single planet, experiencing an internal civil war among two alien races. But this idea was scrapped for something more in line with the quirky yet sinister sci-fi theme of Ratchet & Clank's universe. A focus on combat arena aspects that until then were a minor part of the previous games had become the full focus. So for anyone familiar with the premise of the classic 1980s film Running Man, they'll feel right at home. While on a routine patrol around the famed Starship Phoenix, from Up Your Arsenal, Ratchet, Clank, and Al the robotics guy are transported to the dark corner of the galaxy, where they are forced to compete in a no-holds-barred show known as Dread Zone. The game show where contestants are forced to fight through wave after wave of enemies, and traverse between dangerous combat arenas and battle zones. Just like in Running Man, Ratchet is transported to various areas in order to entertain a large audience, while also being expected to battle against the top contestants, known as the Exterminators, who are all looking to claim his head as a prize as well as the other heroes who have been kidnapped. By the time Ratchet, Clank, and Al rob the Dread Zone, the majority of the Solana Galaxy's most famous heroes have been eliminated. This series has never been afraid to work in dark and sinister themes in its quirky and comedic storytelling, but Deadlocked really incorporated these themes fairly well while still maintaining the humor. The Ratchet & Clank universe had always been good at parodying conventions of human society, such as our obsession with reality network television and the almost religious worshipping of celebrities and public figures. We find the same level of parody within Deadlocked. For instance, the latest antagonist, Gleeman Fox, the ruthless and egotistical owner of Dread Zone, not only does he make immense profit from Dread Zone, but he also runs a huge media conglomerate that basically runs the dark side of the galaxy.
You lose your lunch if you have to watch one more reality dating show? Is your blogs gone wild, video scratched from overuse? Then it's time to turn that dial to something a little more dangerous. Time for some real action. It's time to blow it up! That's right, it's time for Dread Zone, the galaxy's #1 uncensored, unethical, and completely underground combat sport. Blasting straight at you, live from the Battle Dome.
Yes, much has been scaled back, but looking at it now, 20 years later, it might have been that Insomniac was just making a new game altogether. Let's start by discussing the way gameplay has been refined. Upon first loading the game, the standard view is in the strafe position. In the past games, we always got the standard third-person mode, with having the ability to change to the first-person or strafe fire at will. The second and the third game did this very well. In keeping with the hectic nature of combat arenas, this is your best bet, as it not only has the player moving the analog stick while using an action button to fire weapons, it also helps you easily dodge enemy fire. And yeah, this option can be changed depending on your preference, but newer players will feel right at home with the straight firing mode. The game from the beginning encourages you to be aware of potential dangers with its scaled up map, now accessed with a simple click of the analog stick. No more having to stop the action to look at the map on the start screen. Combat starts off relatively slow in the training round, but you soon are placed in the Dread Zone arena where you're reminded of how frenetic the action in these games can get. Arena and field challenges will need to be completed in order to advance and reach the next stage. Certain challenges will need to be completed in order to unlock extra challenges, and so on and so on. Yes, the exploration aspect has been scaled back to linear proportions, but to a certain extent, the ability to free roam is still there. Just don't expect to run into any fun or zany characters as one would expect in previous Ratchet & Clank games. Typically, enemies spawn in abundance, and simply standing in one spot might lead to your death. However, most challenges don't have a time limit, so depending on the difficulty, you can easily camp in one spot at your own risk in an effort to level up weapons and health as fast as you can. Speaking of weapons, while the absence of the abundant weapon quantity is daunting to fans, keep in mind that the 10 weapons that are placed in your weapon slots are perfect for whatever you need to handle. There's no need to constantly open up the quick selection menu and meticulously pick which weapons you want. I will say that I always like using the quick selection menu, but I'm not sad that it's gone, considering that the 10 weapons are actually pretty effective and practical. For instance, the hollow shield launcher to me is the most essential and useful weapon in the game. Okay, that might be a stretch, but any weapon that can cause damage while blocking damage to your health deserves some special mention. I especially love using the hollow shield launcher with the mini turret cannon for the ultimate combination of attack and defense. Once again, upgrading weapons serves as a refreshing and original way to show off the enhanced graphics of Insomniac's game engine, as they provide many stunning visuals and cool abilities to match. Each of the 10 weapons can be upgraded 10 times, and up to a whopping 99 times in challenge mode. And with the inclusion of customizable mods such as alpha and beta mods, weapon variety is not only more practical but also more intuitive. Alpha mods will provide weapons with cool abilities such as acid, mini bombs, and lava, while beta mods can give weapons extra ammo, better damage, wider impacts, and lock-on targeting. I have no doubt that many of us were bummed that Clank, Ratchet's partner in the past 3 games, was delegated to the old cliche mission control role, and the only time he's in the game is actually just to provide instructions via radio. But in his place are 2 battle robots which not only provide extra backup, but also perform certain functions like producing grind rails and throwing EMP grenades. The commands provided to the robots are pretty limited, and rarely do the bots actually make a difference in a battle, as their tolerance for damage is relatively low, and on top of that, they're just simply annoying, sprouting out random one-liners and nonsense. But I guess they were added to provide a new element to the already good gameplay. If they really wanted to add some effective robots to help Ratchet, then they should have at least brought back the awesome Glove of Doom to the weapons inventory. Even with the loss of some exploration aspects, the levels of Deadlock still manage to be quite large. Levels in the game, whether they be set indoors or outdoors, serve as large battle arenas. Compared to each of the previous games, enemy spawn rates are much higher and quicker. It seems with just about every square mile you cover, there's a chance of enemy spawns. And this is where your knowledge of the weapons and the careful planning of your mod selection is really tested. Be ready to jump and dodge in a continuous finger-numbing fashion as you do your best to avoid fire from all angles. As the levels do feature plenty of enclosures and fortifications that certain enemies who are firing projectile weapons will take advantage of. Especially troubling are the large cannons and turrets, which often have shields that can be deactivated by a well-timed EMP grenade thrown by one of your bots. In these levels, you really explore at your own risk. While you're not given a time to complete most challenges, enemies will respond wherever you travel. What kind of annoys me here is that when completing levels, there's never a time to stop and take in the surroundings. Nor are there chances to run into the often zany inhabitants of the planet. These encounters often served as cool breaks from the action, and also chances to learn about what's going on the planet, given the events of the game. But these shortcomings are made up by the more than creative challenges. For instance, the challenges will have you piloting several different vehicles found across the previous games, such as the Landstalker tank, a heavily armored spider-like assault vehicle with dual plasma cannons and lock-on missile launchers. While slow-moving, the vehicle's missiles are capable of mowing down waves of enemies. More of a reason why the Landstalker is fun to use in challenges that act as railgun segments, where you rack up the highest score in a designated time. Making another appearance is the Hover Ship, the flying gunship equipped with machine guns and missiles, perfect for taking out targets from above. Certain challenges will have Ratchet doing familiar things, such as fending off waves of enemies using ground turrets, or using the hover bike to complete time challenges. Then you also have those advanced obstacle courses, which while limited are still fairly easy to do. It isn't as easy as having Clank attached to your back, but it's still manageable. And while we might make some pretty relevant complaints about the game, like I said earlier, it's possible that Insomniac was trying to take these series in a whole new direction. And for that matter, we can appreciate Ratchet Deadlocked for what it offered. Some of the most intense action gameplay ever seen in a game up to that point. For that reason, it really is one of the best action titles seen on the PlayStation 2. Well, that about wraps up this retrospective video. Yeah, I know, this one was pretty short, and I do apologize for the lack of content for the last several months or so, as I've been pretty busy at work, and I just do want to remind you guys that I only do this as a hobby, that I do have a full-time job when I'm not making videos or live streaming. So, I really just want to thank you all for your patience with me. This is your big homie Bob of Smoking Fiend Productions signing off. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to subscribe to the channel and check out some of my other retrospective videos on top of that. Also, it never hurts leaving a like or a comment to the video. What did you think about Ratchet Deadlocked when it first was released for the PlayStation 2? And how did it compare to the 3 other games in the series up to that point? Please let me know what you think in the comments, and thank you for watching.
New season of Dread Zone is underway and on pace to break ratings records once again. This year's contestants include the notorious mafia crime boss known as Ratchet, seen here at his Mokhtar estate.
And to think that other networks actually call him a hero.
It's truly sad, Dallas. Other notable contestants include Ratchet's ruthless robotic accomplice, Clank.
I never did like the look of him, Juanita.
I'm just glad he's off the streets, Dallas.
Remind me why I put up with these morons. Who else would watch Vox News? Temptation Asteroid? Galaxy's Funniest Decapitations?
Yeah.
Queer Eye for the Tyrannoid?
I get it.